So much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Massar along with Jason Kelly, and our guest at this hour is the Dean of the Columbia Business School, Kostis Maglaras. He's joining us on the phone from New York City. Dean Maglaras, thank you so much, because I know it's been a little hectic today, and you've been really kind enough to wait as we listen to some of the live press conferences going on. You know, I do wonder, as you hear what the mayor says, and, we were listening to other governors earlier, really kind of asking for help from the federal government. From your perspective, how would you grade kind of the response so far in terms of what we need to kind of get through this crisis?
I think we probably started with a couple of weeks delay in some of our social distancing initiatives, and we could have potentially been much more proactive in some of the preparation of our healthcare and testing capability. I think at this point in time, states and the government are actually trying to rally in order to do the right thing. Probably this is going to, as the governors and our mayor was saying in your program a few minutes ago, this is going to last for some time. We need to be patient, and we need to be actually all contribute into the control of the how, we need to all intervene with our own way in order to actually help with the dynamic of the pandemic. So this is it's an interesting time that we haven't experienced before, and each of us needs to play its part.
And so, Dean Maglaras, talk to us about what you're hearing from the students around, one of the big questions that obviously is front of mind for anybody who goes to business school, which is coming out, getting a job, and, in the case of the first years, their internships and things like that. What are they saying to you, and what are you saying back to them?
So we are now waiting to see the reaction of the companies. I have to say that had you asked me that question 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I would have said that more students have found jobs that far, the graduating students, than in years past. More people have had internships confirmed than in years past. About, I think, 75% of our students had already internships lined up as of 2 to 3 weeks ago. But clearly, the world has stopped right now. What we don't know, and what we haven't heard so far, is companies actually calling back to cancel some of this. But, I think companies are possibly optimistic that by June, early June, when these internships are supposed to start, maybe the professional environment will be getting back together, and the students will be able to go and work there. On what we're doing here at the school is we're actually creating internship opportunities for students that may actually fail to find internships because their job search is now stalling. So we're creating applied research or applied projects, sometimes in conjunction with companies, through connections that faculty have, so that the students could stay here on campus virtually, but then engage in some of some applied work that would build their professional credentials. So we're trying to hedge their own exposure while we're waiting to see how fast things will move.
I do wonder, Dean Maglaras, what will be the long-term impact of this? We've seen things, especially looking at the world of academia, about, whether there'll be a decline in students from overseas as a result of this. And especially with the discussion at this point, as we wait for some kind of vaccination or so on to really kind of deal with it, that this might be recurring for some time. And, is there a new playbook that you guys at Columbia Business School are starting to think about in terms of how you operate going forward?
So I'm actually fairly optimistic that we will go through this wave that we're going right now, and by some time, hopefully late spring, early summer, things will have calmed down. I hear fairly optimistic things about both medicine that can treat symptoms, but also work on the vaccine. So hopefully we will we will not have to go through multiple of these episodes before we take control of the process. I do not think for now that this would likely pose risk about international students wanting to come here or being able to come here. Mm-hmm. But again, this has to do with how quickly things will subside. It's a little bit early to know right now.
And so as you think about the future of work, we've only got about a minute left, unfortunately, but, and Carol was alluding to this, companies, I think, across the country certainly are starting to understand remote work a little bit differently, the role of technology, the role of, how we interact with our peers and our teams. What do you think changes there in the world of work?
So this is terrific. This is a good question. I think we all went through an extremely abrupt experiment right now. And I think we will change our behavior in the future. One is this ability to actually really genuinely and productively interact without having to physically be in the same space. I'm sure you, like us, are actually realizing that I can have a dozen meetings every day without actually being in the same room with the person and really getting stuff done. So that, I think, is something that is going to stay with us. I think the other place where we saw dramatic change is telemedicine.
Yeah.
And I believe that this is something that we've been talking for quite some time, but it hadn't really caught on. And right now, in the last 2 weeks, similar to what happened in the university, this has really took on dramatically. And I think that's a change that is going to stay with us for quite some time as well.
All right.
There are other things like the retail industry, and one would worry or think about what retailers are going to do after this pandemic subsides, but that's a different story.
Exactly. Well, that gives us a nice place to pick up in our next conversation. Really appreciate it. Dean Kostis Maglaras joining us from Columbia Business School. We look forward to visiting with you in the not-too-distant future. Let's get out to San Francisco now. Ed Baxter is there with some world and national headlines. Hey, Ed.
Yeah, with you, Jason and Carol. I'm listening to your mayor, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio. Very interesting address, praising the spirit of New York, especially healthcare workers who'd stepped up to fight the coronavirus, likening what we're going through now to 9/11. He also pleaded then for help from the federal government and said President Donald Trump is very much behind the game.
President Trump, right now, you are the Herbert Hoover of your generation. You are watching and waiting and missing every chance to be bold and to act to protect our nation.
And he says the city needs to be ready for the long haul. A governor earlier in the day said now only 25% of the workforce should be in the office. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is pleading with nations of the globe not to play politics and throw barbs at each other, but to share information and work together to fight the virus.
In such unusual times, the creativity of the response must match the unique nature of the crisis, and the magnitude of the response must match its scale.
And he says many countries have exceeded health care capabilities and need help. U.S. State Department is telling Americans not to travel abroad. And the president says for those already caught overseas,
we're working on taking care of that with the military.
So military evacuation?
Yeah, we're looking to take, no, not evacuation. We're trying to get them out. And, they got caught. They were late with their flight.
President also says he has the FDA working on decades-old drug that used to treat malaria. It is not yet approved by the FDA. Its efficacy for COVID-19 has not been fully evaluated, but he's ordered them to go ahead and test. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter. This is Bloomberg Radio.
Ed, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. That was a nice report, especially because, being out there in San Francisco, sort of understanding what's happening on the local level and sort of framing it in the context of what's happening here around us. Carol, pretty amazing. And meanwhile, one of the most read stories right now on the Bloomberg, I shouldn't laugh, it's just sort of an amazing, world we're living in where Vail Resorts had a lot of fancy people fly in on private jets from Mexico, and apparently they went home with coronavirus.
Yeah, right. It's become a major source of coronavirus cases, as you said, Jason, in Mexico. The state of, I think it's Jalisco.
Jalisco, yes.
Jalisco, home to Guadalajara, is looking for about 400 travelers who 2 weeks ago chartered 2 flights to Denver and then traveled from there to Vail. Some tested positive for the virus when they got back. The governor said in a video yesterday he's calling on the rest of the group to self-isolate. I mean,
these are very important people in the Mexican economy, too. We're talking about the chairman of the Mexican Stock Exchange. We're talking about a relative of billionaire Carlos Slim. They both tested positive after returning from Vail on a private jet. They do think part of what was going on here is that the U.S. Open snowboarding championships were at Vail. That competition was held between February 24th and February 29th. So that may have been a little bit of a breeding ground there. So this Vail cluster apparently is just a source of a lot of risk down there in the state of Jalisco.
A third business leader was Juan Domingo Beckman, was also infected. He is the CEO of Jose Cuervo Tequila, a tequila maker, and so he tested positive for the virus after also going abroad. So I guess he was there with his wife. But yeah, I mean, this is what happens, right? A group goes over, they test positive, and then it's everybody that they've potentially come in contact with. So yeah, there's a story. It is among the most read on the Bloomberg.
Bloomberg Business Week is brought to you by the Jewish Communal Fund, JCF's donor advised fund. It's the smart choice to manage your philanthropy. Open a JCF fund now to lock in a 2020 tax deduction. Visit jcfny.org.
A PAC needs... You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Someone to follow.
It's got to be important for somebody to have a breakout moment.
Don't look now, but they're behind you.
Imports declined 2.8%.
Bloomberg Daybreak.
Sources tell us that agreement is expected to include commitments on U.S. intellectual property.
With Karen Moscow and Nathan Hager.
Could we see that play into the results and the forward guidance?
Weekday mornings at 5 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
You know your body, and you know when something's off, when something doesn't feel quite right. Don't ignore symptoms like fatigue, joint pain, rashes, and fever. They could be signs of lupus. Listen to your body. Take care of yourself. We're here to help you take control of your health. Learn how at BeFierceTakeControl.org. Brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of America and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
The the Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast. How did the Yankees become this mega valuable team? Where the money is flowing inside sports around the globe.
From the marketing perspective, where are the dollars spent?
From union heads to team owners, Scott Soshnick and Michael Barr speak to the names that power this multi-billion-dollar industry.
Boston Red Sox CEO Sam Kennedy.
National Hockey League Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Bloomberg Business of Sports. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
17 past the hour. Let's get you caught up on the day that was in markets. So we digested a wave of monetary and fiscal measures through today, all of which are kind of aimed at reducing a lot of the financial stress. Equities were up, yes, but we finished off session highs. Tesla was up more than 18% during the regular session. That helped to power the NASDAQ higher, but Tesla is down in late trading after the company said it has suspended operations at its Fremont, California assembly plant. This is one of the questions that had been looming over the stock because, as you know, the big three in Detroit have all stopped their production in the United States. In terms of overall markets, Dow up today by nearly 1%. S&P 500 picks up about 0.5%. A lot of the consumer discretionary names were higher, particularly companies in the casino and hotel operating space. I'm talking about Las Vegas Sands, Wynn Resorts, and MGM. Earlier, President Trump said that he would support this idea of the government taking an equity stake in those companies that did receive aid from taxpayers. Bond market today, 10-year Treasury, last quoted at a yield of 1.14%. You're caught up on markets, and that is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Doug Krisner, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Massar along with Jason Kelly. And as you've been hearing all along on Bloomberg, many industries, of course, impacted as a result of the virus. Looking forward to our next guest. Jerome Griffith is Chief Executive Officer at Land's End. He joins us on the phone from Long Island, New York. So nice to have you here with Jason and myself. First of all, we hope you're doing well, your family is well, your workers. Give us a little insight into how your world personally and professionally has changed.
Well, one of the things that has changed for us has definitely been the workforce and how we're managing things. And thanks a lot for the question on that. It's a little bit different depending where we are in the world. We have offices in Asia and Europe and here. For our workers in Asia, they're actually on their way back to work. Our Japan business has been picking up. Our sourcing office in China is starting to come back in. And where we originally thought supply chain was going to be a big problem, we see very few issues there, if any. In Europe and in Wisconsin, where we're based, we are on, many of the employees are working from home, staggered staff if you're in the office, and the warehouse is still working and shipping product out, but that's again on staggered staffing. And in New York, where we have a small design office, the people there are home and working from home. Everybody's getting used to working on Teams by Microsoft. Everybody's getting used to working on FaceTime. People are actually finding that they're having some pretty good conversations digitally and making decisions faster and moving on. Personally, I had my whole family in the house today. Everybody's out of New York and is working from home, and we're just looking for rooms to have conference calls in.
Right, exactly. I think we're all doing that. I had to put an on-air sign on my, I'm broadcasting from my daughter's bedroom. So, this is what we're doing these days. So, Jerome, help us understand sort of your customer at this point, because we know you're in touch with them as well. Brick and mortar stores are closed, I believe, but online continues. What are you seeing as you sort of get down into the customer sphere?
With the stores, we have 26 stores, so not a very large store base, and we've closed that over the weekend, and that'll be closed for a few weeks. Online, our online customer had been very robust at the end of 2019, and then for the first few fiscal weeks of 2020, up until about 10 days ago, where we started to see people's demand slow down and really change rapidly day by day. I think that people are much more focused, or have been in the last few days, of just, can I get the basic essentials? I believe over the course of the next few days, as people start to see that, you can get food, you can go in the grocery store and get chicken and toilet paper, you'll be fine. Their lives are going to start to turn to, now this is the new norm for the time being, how do I manage through? So, we're staying on it day by day. We are seeing some people enticed by discounts a little bit, but that's not what we're really looking at right now. I think it's important that people have the opportunity to shop from home and from the safety of their own homes, but at the same time, I don't think it's right to take advantage of any difficult situation.
It's interesting. I want to go back to what you said about China. Give me an idea, because we had a story in the magazine last week that was the question is China really getting back on track? Because from what our reporters found out is that, yes, energy usage is up, which is a key indicator to figuring out what's going on in the Chinese economy. But we're also hearing that there are projections that factories have to hit in terms of energy usage, and that there are just people going in and turning on the lights. From what you're seeing, what can you really clearly tell us about how much they've gotten back? Because I think the Chinese story does help us maybe hopefully figure out how we get back and how long it takes.
Well, for us, it's really two stories. One is China, but also one is Japan. On the China side, we had been very worried about supply chain straight away. Having said that, China only represents about 20% of our production worldwide. The guys were late, definitely getting back from Chinese New Year, but as we looked at production schedules and have been working with the factories directly, we're finding that almost everything is going to be on time or up to 2 or 3 weeks late, which is actually okay for us from a delivery standpoint. Japan was a little bit of a different story, where we had an ongoing business in Japan, and we ship out of Yokohama, which is where they had the large cruise ship that was quarantined for quite some time. Many of our employees ended up working from home. They weren't coming into the office. We had customer service reps which were working from home on laptops. And that went on for several weeks, but they're coming back into work now as the cases have gone down to small numbers or even zero in some cases. So we see, it's like Farr's Law. There's a curve going up and there's a curve going down. And it seems as though Asia's on the other side of the curve right now.
And are you seeing anything in terms of your own sort of worker population, in terms of cases and things like that? And how are you managing that? Only got about 40 seconds left.
We haven't seen any. I was saying to my family today, it's interesting. We talk every day. I think communication must be up tenfold in the last few days, and we have seen nor heard of no one. Now you have to knock wood on that and realize most of our guys are in Wisconsin, which is not really a hot spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right.
Well, good to hear.
We really, really appreciate it. I hope you come back and visit with us at a time when we're not just talking about the virus. You've got some really interesting collaborations. We didn't get to talk about Reese Witherspoon. That's a miss on us. And you've got some interesting stuff going on in brick and mortar as well. Jerome Griffith is the CEO of Land's End, joining us on the phone, bunkered down with his family, as we all are. He's out on Long Island.
We need to do an extended podcast with him. We do. And bring him into our weekend show.
And he's got a fascinating background, too. He worked at Toomey, so a lot to get into there. We hope he'll come back and visit with us. Coming up, CVS, understanding what they are doing. Certainly they're right in the middle of all this. Carol Master, Jason Kelly, here on Bloomberg.
The starting gun for your weekday race. Karen Moscow.
Airlines could soon be under pressure.
Nathan Hager.
Apple has reversed course.
Bloomberg Daybreak, beginning at 5 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Technology led the way as stocks posted modest gains. It was a tepid vote of confidence for the economic and financial measures rolled out by global policymakers. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 188. The S&P 500 rose 11. The Nasdaq Composite climbed 161. Blue Apron says it has seen a sharp increase in demand for its mail-order meal kits from shut-in Americans. In a statement, the company said it expects to meet increased demand by March 30th. With Tiffany shares ending today at 126.50, France's LVMH says it's thinking of buying the stock in the open market. It could mean big savings for LVMH, which agreed last year to acquire Tiffany at 135. So what do you expect to do with all that toilet paper? Whatever your plans, companies including Georgia Pacific, Procter & Gamble, and Kimberly-Clark say they've got you covered. All have ramped up production amid surging demand. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
This week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, I'll talk with the author of a fictional story about a global pandemic that right now feels all too real.
All I did was just drew upon the trends. I just extended them. Unfortunately, real life seems to have outraced even some of my imagination.
Lawrence Wright joins me on the New Yorker Radio Hour from WNYC Studios. Listen to this episode on TuneIn today.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Advocating for our clients is at the core of what we do. Our award-winning high-touch team is just one of the benefits of working with BNY Mellon. We help alternative investment managers create great experiences for their clients. Whether it's customized financing, securities lending solutions, platform access, or outsourced trading, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and dedicated to meeting your evolving demands.
To learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers, visit Pershing.com. Pershing LLC. Member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies. Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers.
Message and data rates may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at Babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
Two people who are as fascinated by the markets as you are.
What's your sense of the competitive landscape in the cloud business?
Lisa Abramowitz.
People are talking about potential regulatory pressure.
And Paul Sweeney.
Are you seeing flows into ESG ETFs?
Bloomberg Markets.
What's your main conversation today with some of these corporate executives?
Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern.
They're spending a lot of money there.
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Vatsal Shah is Senior Project Engineer at Mott MacDonald,
a global engineering consultancy with more than 16,000 employees. He earned his PhD at New Jersey Institute of Technology, and as an adjunct professor is helping NJIT students explore emerging technologies.
My focus is renewable markets, emerging technologies, the idea of floating cities. What are we doing to develop that? What will happen to the city on the water? Well, you're going to have waves hitting it. You're going to have solar. How are you going to develop plants? How are you going to develop vegetation and farming? That sort of thought process happens at NJIT. We actually plan out what will the city look like. How do we develop that? So in 10 years, we're actually ready to take on those challenges when we have our first development in the water. NJIT also has been doing a lot of work in self-healing materials, so taking the polymers and the new material that we have in our material sciences departments and putting them into things like concrete, things like steel, reinforcing our soil.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Broadcasting live to New York, Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 1061. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
All right, you are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Masser along with Jason Kelly. Coming up, we're going to check in with the General Counsel and CVS's Health Chief Policy and External Affairs Officer at CVS Health. He's been in contact with the White House in terms of dealing with the virus, so we'll see what he has to say about kind of where we are in this process and really helping out patients and individuals.
Yeah, great to get his perspective. First, let's get the perspective on what's going on in the business world from Doug Krisner. Hey, Doug.
Let's begin with Tesla, Jason. The stock is down about 10% right now in the late session. This is after the company suspended operations at its manufacturing plant in Fremont, California. During the regular session, Tesla was part of a group of big cap tech stocks that advanced and sent the NASDAQ composite to a gain of 2.3%. In the regular session, Tesla was up more than 18%. A lot going on today in terms of monetary and fiscal measures aimed at reducing financial stress. The Fed establishing a temporary dollar liquidity swap line with 9 other central banks as a way of helping companies and financial institutions meet their need for dollars. Today, the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index picked up 1.4%. And President Trump said that he would support taking support the idea of the U.S. government taking equity stakes in companies that do receive financial aid from taxpayers. Crude oil recovering all of yesterday's 24% drop. The president saying he would get involved in the oil price standoff between Russia and Saudi Arabia at an appropriate time. WTI picking up about $4.85. We settled the regular session at $25.22. 10-year Treasury last quoted at a yield of 1.14%. The Dow up 1% today. S&P 500 better by 0.5%. That's the Bloomberg Business Flash.
Doug, thanks so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly in New York, Carol Masser in New Jersey. Joining us on the phone is Tom Moriarty. He is the General Counsel and the Chief Policy and External Affairs Officer over at CVS Health. In the middle of it, to say the least, literally in the Rose Garden, I believe, last week when the president was helping sort of give us a sense of what's happening on this issue from a health perspective. Tom, thank you so much. I know you're extraordinarily busy. Help us understand sort of where we are. Maybe give us a sense of something we